Good Omens began as this partnership between you and Terry, and so you've spoken a lot in the past about the process of trying to bring it to life a number of times. And so, what was it about when you connected with Douglas that you knew, right? This is the person. This is the time. It's going to happen, and we're going to make it happen. And I guess also for you, Douglas, how did you know this was a project that you just absolutely had to be a part of? What was the draw for you?
Well, I can answer one bit. I mean, first of all, I was asked eventually, to look at the scripts, and I didn't know that Neil had a house in Skye at this point. And our first phone call, I think, was Neil was in Australia going for a walk, and he said, "Oh, you're from Skye," and I went, "Yeah." And most of my career has been spent being ridiculed for coming from such a daft place to be in television, And people say, "Oh, you go on about it so much." Then suddenly there was this guy who had these amazing scripts. He was telling me that he wrote the scripts on Skye at his house, and then I was telling him stories about Skye, and we spent. So I think the Skye thing was a huge thing for us as a kind of a common interest thing, which was a big start. But then it was just simply, it was the work. I mean, I tend to think. I never liked the words masterclass, by the way. I think it all sounds a bit pompous, but even going with that, I tend to think that if your career is going well, each job should be a preparation for the next job, in a way, and it should work out that way. And kind of what had happened to me was that I'd had a time when I was doing Line of Duty and Doctor Who for a while, for a few years, which was, if somebody had said, "Do you want to do that for the rest of your career?" I'd have said, "Yeah, that's fine. That'll be really good. Thank you very much." And then Stephen Moffat and Hartswood let me go on the 10th episode of Sherlock. And that was the thing I think brought me to an exec producer's attention and then on to Neil. But I hadn't read Good Omens when I read the scripts. David Tennant hadn't read it either, so that helped. But Michael Sheen had profoundly read it many times, and I think somewhere in there we got a good mix together. Neil, don't you think?
Yeah, I do. Douglas first came on my radar with Jekyll, and the first 3, I think, episodes of Jekyll, and I'd watched it because it was Stephen Moffat, and I will watch anything that Stephen Moffat writes. But I really went, okay, there's a director here who's really interesting. And so that was the point that I started noticing Douglas and then going, okay, he's doing Doctor Who's and things too. But I think, the initial bonding was Skye. It actually gave us something that we had as a weird kind of shared universe. We both knew what we were talking about. There is an oddness to the people of Skye, whether it's the people who were born there or the people who found it and went, this is my place. And I think and it always meant that we had something to talk about. If on the worst days of Good Omens, it's on the days when somebody from the BBC would swing in, say, "Hello, just thought you'd like to know the accountants have just looked at the numbers again, and we're currently dealing with the £1.2 million budget shortfall. Okay, got to go off to a meeting now. Bye." And they go away. Douglas and I would sit and we'd go, "Skye," and we'd talk about Skye for a bit. It was great. This, oddly enough, happened several times during the making of Good Omens. But it was also a sort of the Neil and Douglas thing. What I like about it actually is it wasn't an immediate love fest. It wasn't like I met Douglas and went, "You are the director I've been waiting all my life for." And he went, "You're the great writer." We kind of had to earn each other's trust. And then we earned each other's respect. And then somewhere in there, we realized we'd actually become friends in sort of, by being in combat together. So it was a sort of a very slow, solid process that took whatever it was, the 2 years of making Good Omens. But we came out of it going, okay, I came out of it going, I want to work with you more. this is good. I trust you utterly and absolutely. I know what you went through to bring us Good Omens, and you did it, and you were there.
I mean, it's a relationship, we're happy for in the industry, considering everything that's coming off it now. I just want to stick with place for a second. And Douglas, you've had to leave home and work away from Scotland for such a long time. And now you're kind of in a space where you're able to come back home, work here, bring the work here, grow something here. I mean, how does that feel? Was that something back when you were making those decisions of what was the next job that you were going to take and taking you away from the place you called home? Is that something you hoped for, you planned for?
Yeah, one thing, and I say this without bitterness because I'm very happy where I am, but there was bitterness at the time. I've never been offered any drama in Scotland. BBC Scotland have never offered me a drama ever. So that option kind of wasn't there. So I had to go away. But then I come from Sky, so I've always had to come away anyway. So, you're always away, really. I'll tell you, there was a moment where, so big thing, and hopefully we'll talk about it. We should talk about the training we're doing in Good Omens. But the moment where I think I crossed a bit of a Rubicon was I did a couple of episodes of Outlander. That was the last time I worked in Scotland in series 2. And I was shooting the breeze with an American executive, and she said to me, "So what are you doing next?" And I said, "Oh, I'll probably head back to London and see, although I've never lived in London, I'll head down to London to see if there's any work around." And she said, "Oh, I've never been there. I've never been to London. What's it like?" And I suddenly had this kind of, the furniture in my head shifted, and the idea that a top level exec had never been to London was just like a wondrous thing, so you can make one of the biggest TV series in the world and you don't have to go to London anymore. And I'm not saying that I then sort of worked out all the paths to get here, because that would involve me organising the pandemic, which would not be good. But when the moment came to bring Good Omens and Anansi Boys here, through lots of twists and turns, it was really clear to me that we could make it here. And that there was nothing shy about it, because, I've worked in countries that of similar sort of size, with similar sort of industries, like the Czech Republic and Hungary and so on, and even South Africa but I've also been in places like Vancouver, where they had 50 television series being made at the same time when I was there. But I've got no fears at all about bringing these shows here. And, we'll do the usual thing. We'll have to import some people, but actually we've got the cream of the crop of local talent. And even the word local makes it sound slightly embarrassed about it. And I think what I'm glad about is that finally bringing these shows here with Neil, it feels like everyone's ready to make them, and there's no shyness about it. And I think that, there's good and bad things about the streamers, just like there is about, the BBC and ITV and so on. And if you land in a happy patch, then it can be good for you. And this is certainly a happy patch for us and for Scotland. And just to talk about the training briefly, in case we forget about it, we're doing a big training scheme with Anansi Boys in a slightly different way, but with Good Omens, Creative Scotland and Scottish Screen Scotland are joining with us to create a big training scheme that kind of follows on from Outlander. And so we're going to get about 20 people, which is quite a big figure, that are going to work across all departments. And I've just started meeting them, and they've just started working with us. And the joy on these people's faces of coming along to work on Good Omens is just amazing. They can't quite believe it's Good Omens, because a lot of them are fans already. But we've also tried to do a training scheme where there's just no nepotism at all. You can't push your way in, no matter who even if you know Neil Gaiman and Douglas Mackinnon together, you couldn't push your way in. It's a level playing field. We've even got people coming from the Highlands, and we're going to pay for their accommodation and travel, so they've got a level playing field. And hopefully, with diversity, it's the same sort of thing. And it's going to be really interesting to see what that bunch of people do, and then with us, but then what happens to them afterwards. So I guess it's I go back to that first thought. It's, how can we change the furniture of the industry? And we do that by action, not just intentionality. We have to do it. It's the same as diversity. We have to actually do stuff. not just talk about doing stuff.